From Hollywood, California, welcome to Reza Rifts with your host, Keith Reza.
Hello.
Hi, Heather. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I've been trying to get you for a while, so it's an honor
Oh,
to actually
nice.
say, yeah, honor to meet you. But I see in the background is a poster
I know. I
uh,
decided I'm representing. There we go. See if I move my chair in a way that I can show it off better. Okay, there we go. A lovely poster. Yeah,
well,
that's the only art I have in my office here. So,
but you know what I've noticed? I've noticed like a lot of movie stars and stuff, they have posters of their movies. And like I've done a couple movies and maybe I just don't really care, but I don't collect any of my posters. You know what I mean? Like I'm just
oh,
like,
I don't know. Like I feel like since it's one of my only accomplishments in life, like one of my best accomplishments, it reminds me that I did something cool when I was 18 years old. So, yeah, no,
oh.
I like to look at it. And actually, I think the art of all the Nightmare on Elm Street posters is really beautiful, and they just don't make posters like that anymore with using like a real artist and with, his imagination. So it's special in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I guess for me, I just don't want it because I'd be like, oh, I was in that piece of crap. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to, like,
I
but
doubt that's true.
oh
That was a
no,
piece of crap.
it's,
So what movies did you do? Inform me.
so I did one called Terrible People where I played a bank robber and I
Oh,
got
fun.
killed. Yeah, it was
Oh, no. Okay.
it's pretty bad. And then I did another one called House of Karma where
No.
where I got killed. And
That's fun.
yeah, but you know what it is, Heather, is you're talking to the worst actor in the world. Like I'm just a stand-up comedian. I don't,
Right, right.
you know what I mean?
I
I
don't know.
have
I think comedians have a special flair that we don't.
Did I lose you? I think I lost you, Heather. Uh-oh. Did I lose you? Ah, oh, I see you. And I lost you. And I don't know where you went. Oh, I see you again. I think I lost you.
It's not that much better. Maybe it's worse.
Oh, there you are. I thought I lost you. I
No,
was
I'm
like,
back now. I just didn't like
oh,
what was happening in the back of my background. There's
uh,
people that, after the pandemic, people graded what your background looked like when you did those like zooms, like if you were on TV and you had to do a talking head zoom.
yeah. I think I lost you again. Are you there, Heather? Ugh. All right, folks, we're here uh trying to fix this. We lost Heather, but we will be back soon. I lost you. All right. Excellent. Well, the good news is it was not my internet, folks, because I'm still here with you. Uh I really hope it wasn't. Oh, there she is. Oh yeah, she's coming back.
So if this happens again, I don't know what to do because I don't know what to do. We just got a new modem and I just don't think it gives giving me a strong enough signal, but we'll just see
if
how it goes, okay?
if it happens again, like you could call me and I'll put you on speaker and we'll just do a phoner.
Okay, is this on, but are you using this whole video and everything?
No, no, no. I'm just saying, like, if it happens again, like
I
we could
got it.
still.
But
Oh,
is this going to show up on YouTube or anything, or is it just audio?
I mean, I could not throw the video. I usually promote the video, but if you don't want me to, I don't do
No,
that
I want
either.
there to be video.
Uh,
Um,
I think it
but
looks I think it looks
what?
great. I said I
Okay.
think it looks great.
You tell me, like, give me a hand signal if I'm starting to chop out or something, and then
Okay.
maybe, I mean, we could do this from my house, which has a better signal, you know,
Yeah.
tomorrow or something, if it's not good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's working now, so I think we're all
Okay,
good. Yeah.
let's do it.
Let's just
Fire
nail it.
away.
Yeah. Uh, but no, I guess like that's what I was kind of saying is like how I'm just a comedian and I have no desire to do acting. So the movies I do, I'm not very proud of. You know what I mean? And
I see. I got it. But you know what? You got to be proud of everything you do. You know, we choose to do things. We might as well be proud of them, right? Even if
yeah,
they're no good.
yeah.
I should know that better than anybody. I've done some real dogs out there too, so we
Well,
can be in the same club,
the dog club.
the dog club,
Oh,
Bow Wow, the
that's the
Bow
best.
Wow club. Yeah.
That's the best type of club. Uh, but I wanted to ask you because before a Nightmare, you know, you did some bits and parts in Outsiders, and then you had a film called Nickel Mountain. And I wanted to ask you, did that get released after A Nightmare on Elm Street, or was it because I think you
You know,
filmed
it
it
really never
before?
got released. It was you know, back in the days of independent filmmakers making films on their own dime or with producers' money, if you weren't attached to some kind of a distribution pipeline, it was really hard for a movie to get seen. And so that movie was financed by a producer from Oklahoma who I just think he wasn't able to find a distribution deal. So it just went straight to video. And it
Oh,
was never
really?
a big screen. Yeah.
Did it go straight after Nightmare came out? Because I think you filmed it before, didn't you?
No, I think it probably came around out around the same time. I don't remember that it came out afterwards, but
Yeah.
um yeah, Max, I don't even get a copy of it until many years later when a fan brought me one. I didn't even know it was released on VHS actually until, yeah, a fan brought me one and said, "Oh, I saw that you did this movie." And I was like, "Yeah, I did, but I never saw it, so I
Yeah.
didn't know it got released."
Do you like beside because obviously you've seen the Nightmare films, but do you like have trouble watching other stuff you've done, or do you just watch it all once and be like, all right, I
It's
watched it?
what I find, and maybe I'm similar to other people, is the first time I watch it, I just hate everything about it, and I'm
Yeah,
very hard on myself, and I feel like I don't look very good, or I don't like my hair, and I'm very self-critical. But as time goes on, I'm much more kind about it, and it's just a bad thing that people have, that they're so critical of what they, you know, the way they look, and I try not. I'm trying to be better about it, but um. Yeah, I'm just my worst critic. I'm my own worst critic.
but don't you think everybody's their own worst critic though? Because and like I think in a way that's kind of healthy. You know what I mean? Because who's going to be meaner than yourself? You know what I mean?
I think it is healthy because we want to, you know, achieve, you know, we want to have high standards and we want to do the best we can. But I do believe that people can be too hard on themselves and um, not appreciate what a great job they did and never give themselves like credit for actually working really hard and doing a good job. It doesn't seem to be very fashionable for people to just go, "Yeah, I did a really great job on that." You know, I mean, most people say, "Oh, I could have done better." I mean, it's just we're taught to be modest. You know, we're taught to be falsely modest, and I do think it can get in the way, but as opposed to falsely modest, there's also this other thing which I think is just hyper critical of yourself. And
Yeah.
in acting and in Hollywood, it's very common, I find.
Yeah. And then, you know, but like, let's talk about the hard work you do, you know, because like, you know, with all your other stuff, you know, like a Nightmare, you auditioned against 200 people and you got the part. So like, that's got to show you like, you know, that takes a lot of big skill because 200 people is a lot of people to audition against, you know?
I mean, they always say that. I don't know who ever said that number, but I got the idea when I was auditioning for it that there was a couple dozen.
Yeah.
And the truth is in the olden days, I will use that term olden days a lot because it was the olden days. agents would look at the breakdown of the parts available for a project, and they would put every client on their list in a they would take all their pictures out of these, they would have them all in mail in like mail slots, every picture of every actor in their, stable basically. And they just take them all that would qualify for that part, say a young girl plays 15 to 18, and they just throw everyone in the envelope and send the envelope to the casting director. So, yes, I'm sure that the casting director probably got over 200 submissions, but
Right.
then the reason the casting directors, work really hard is that they have to look through them and actually call people into the audition, and they don't do that many. I mean, because that would just take too much time and be way too expensive. So they probably whittle it down to, I would say, probably a couple dozen to show the producers, and then the producer will say, yeah, her, and then it whittles down to 10, and then you meet the director and it whittles down to 4, and then then you get the part. So maybe 200 young women were submitted, but I feel like that statement's a little bit, I don't know, doesn't really represent, I think, what really happened.
Right. Okay. I mean,
Like, I
that
wasn't
kind.
in a room with 200 girls, like a
Oh
chorus,
no, I didn't
something
think you
like that.
were.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if I've ever been up against that many. That would be really terrifying to think about.
I auditioned for this movie called Dennis the Menace when I was like 8 years
Yeah,
old.
I love that movie.
Yeah, and I didn't get it, but I remember like my the it wasn't really my agent, it was like my mom's agent or whatever. He was like, "Oh, so he didn't get the part, but there was a thousand other kids, so he was in the top thousand." Like he was being nice about my rejection or whatever. I
Yay.
was, I was like, "Ah, cool."
Well, it's hard on kids to audition and not get the part, it's they just got you have to realize early on that what they're looking for is so specific and so in the director's mind. It's an image of a person that they've imagined to be this character, and so they really are looking for people to fill this slot in the director's imagination, and it's not easy, I always felt like having curly hair was always like a really big like problem, because most actresses at the time had this really beautiful straight hair, and
Right,
when when I would always look at commercials, I'm like, only like the really weird ones, with have curly hair, and the best friend has curly hair, but the lead girl always has like really gorgeous straight hair. So I got hung up on that for a while. Like, you just have to make up an excuse why you're not getting hired. So the fact that I had curly hair was a really good fallback for me.
oh, I think the curly hair though kind of like helped you out though, because like
Well, it helped
that's
me out with Nancy on Nightmare on
yeah.
Elm Street. Yeah, that was a that, I mean, she was almost like, her hair was definitely a character in and of itself.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you though, like I'm sure you've been asked this before, so I'm gonna try and twist the question a little. So like when you got the script, the audition, because did you necessarily know it was gonna be like a horror film? Because I feel like horror films back then, like there was so small horror films that people didn't really know what they were doing.
It
You know what I mean?
really, yeah, it does not read like a horror film at all. It really reads like a John Hughes teenage drama with all these friends in this really scary, situation. And Freddy's not in the script very much. He shows up for the death scenes, but a lot of it's just the relationship Nancy has with her friends and her parents. Um, so yeah, I didn't really know that it was going to be a horror movie, like a slasher. And actually, the first time I heard Robert Englund say that, I was a little bit horrified, because I thought, well, what am I getting myself into? Like, what is this thing? And then he told me like Wes Craven had directed all these like really, really like hard to watch, depraved, horror movies. And then I got really scared because none of his movies were available. Like, we didn't have VHS machines. Like, people just
Right.
don't get, like, there was no way for me to go and see all of Wes Craven's films to that point, unless I went to some studio and got a tape or some projectionist to find the reels and show them to me. I mean, there was not a way for me to watch Wes Craven's movies.
Like there's no
Before
streaming like there is
there was no
now.
streaming, there was no like, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't even have a TV. So, I mean, it was like, how would I have seen Last House on the Left? There is no way I could have seen it. And I think I did ask Robert, like, how can I see that movie? And he's like, well, you got to go to a bar at like 2 a.m. and sometimes it's playing, you know? And, you know, like, he's like, that's when I saw it. I was at some dive bar in Hollywood and it was playing on, at midnight on, midnight movies. But I can't even believe it was playing on the TV. If you've seen Last House on the Left, it's hard to believe that TV people would have permitted that movie on TV. So maybe it was like some little tiny movie theater that Robert saw it in, or maybe he wasn't
Yeah.
telling me the truth, like he didn't see it. But the rumors were out that it was just this really hard to watch, almost like a snuff film, like almost so violent, so dark. Its messages so hopeless, and I was like, "Oh no, like who is this guy?" Because on the exterior, Wes Craven looked like my college English teacher, English professor. He wore a tie every day to work, and he was so modest and straight-laced, and I couldn't believe that he would have been responsible for this movie people described as Last House on the Left. And so I kind of put it in the back of my mind and just thought, oh, he probably just did that, with his
Once.
buddies, with his buddies. They were like having a good time, or they
Yeah.
just had a message that they wanted to deliver that was really dark. And so I got to know Wes without seeing any of his other movies. So that was kind of a joy. And then all of us just worked really hard to bring this really charming story to life. And in the middle of all this charm and these kids have these great relationships, and there's the divorced parents and the drama of that. Um, then once in a while Freddie would pop in and be terrifying, but then, and he would leave, and then we would have these other scenes that weren't quite so scary. They were more unusual and psychological, and all the time Nancy is being made to think that she's crazy. So in a way, it's her story of her mental, like her fortitude to try to get through this period of time in her own life. And yeah, I think we did a good job, making it a real movie on top of being a, quote, horror movie slasher.
Right. And so like what you just said, like how old were you when you were filming this? Because like that's a really hard thing to objectify, when someone's going through that and putting it on screen like that. You know what I mean? Like that takes a lot of skill and stuff.
Well, the story kind of told itself. I never felt like I had to make much up in terms of like background or um the story was all on the page. That's what's really great about a good writer, is that even the smallest details can give you some inkling about the past for this character. So, especially that great scene in the police station where my mom and dad are talking to each other, but it's obvious that they hate each other. So you
Right.
realize like Nancy's been through this really bad divorce. Her parents have gotten divorced and she's kind of in the middle, living with her mom, but her dad is very distant and very, kind of pissed off all the time. And so that gives you a lot as an actor, to like, just those relationships right there give you a lot to grab onto. Um, like there's like the everyone always thinks like, was Nancy a virgin? Like were she and Johnny, like what was, I mean, she and Glenn, like what was their
Yep.
relationship? And you know, you just have to kind of look what's on the page, and you see, oh, well, Nancy says to him, um, we're here for Tina, not ourselves. I think that's just such a great line when he wants to like go to bed with Nancy at at Tina's house because they're all alone and there's no parents around. But she's her antenna are up. She really feels like something's really wrong and really weird.
Yeah.
And so she says, no, not tonight, basically, not tonight, but not like never, or like, so to me I interpreted that as like they were kind of regular teenagers, but Nancy's heightened sense of like alarm prevents her from like sitting in the corner making out with Glenn. And so that's
Yeah.
another like instance where just one little line kind of gave me and and Wes, we would talk about it, just this idea of, why are the teenagers acting this way tonight?
Right.
And so every day, I mean, we would just go through line by line and I would think about it that way.
Well, speaking of Glenn, is like Johnny Depp. This was his first film as well, and
Yeah.
like he kind of like he's a good looking guy. He's a good looking fella, and you're acting against him. Like, did you get like oh my god, this guy is adorable, or like how do you feel about that?
Well, at the time I had a boyfriend and he was involved with another with a woman as well. And so
Uh,
we really felt like it wasn't meant to be. I mean, I didn't want to have like a torrid affair with my leading man. I always thought that that was kind of, I don't know, I just never felt like it was a very dignified way to, like conduct yourself on set. I mean, I always took my job really seriously, and I thought, what
yeah,
other job in the world are people like, having affairs on the job, during the work hour? I know it's assumed to be like almost expected when you have uh you know two great looking people like on the set and they're young and the
yeah,
world
yeah.
their oyster, like why not? But for me it never was like that. And two, Wes was he was a very conservative person, and I would have felt ashamed if I had just been kind of like a real typical loose, woman. I really wanted to sh I just wanted to show him that I wasn't like a typical, 18-year-old. And I felt
Yeah.
like the way I acted on set was very important to that, and so I just wanted to be as professional as I could.
It kind of seemed like Johnny Depp had the exact same work ethic too, because he seems like when you watch the movie, like he's a great actor, but you could tell it's his first actor, and you kind of get a sense like maybe he's like in a band or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like he
maybe.
wants,
Well, he
like
is
he
in a
wants,
band. I know it's like,
yeah, yeah, like he wants
but he's
to,
so, yeah, I mean, I think he's, watching it again just recently, yeah, we are really young, and it's pretty clear like we're all on our first couple of jobs. We're not as steady and as experienced as other young actors were at the time. Both
yeah.
of us had, I mean, I had only done a few projects and he had done none. And I can tell. I mean, I think you're right. You can kind of tell. But the way that Wes put it all together and the way that he set our scenes up together, he really set us up for success and never, I think, asked us to do things that were beyond us. We never both had to like break down and cry or, it's like those
Yeah.
are the things that are really challenging for a young actor sometimes. Or, um, yeah, I just felt like Wes set us up for success all the time. He had great blocking. The sets were so beautiful. The action was always very interesting. So I felt really lucky.
And then like let's talk into the future because like it comes out, you're the star of this. And like maybe I'm wrong on this, but maybe like just like how it is in the day is like you don't necessarily know if it's a hit yet until people start telling you, oh hey, you're in that movie, because there's no internet or whatever, so you don't know how much it's actually making unless you watch the news or something, you know what I mean?
Well, they had Hollywood Reporter, which is the best way to find out how your movie was doing. And my roommate at the time, the movie came out, I guess, probably on a Thursday. And I had never been in a movie before, so I didn't know that you could go and find out how well the movie did. So she's like, Heather, we have to go down and buy a Hollywood Reporter, like the next Thursday, which would have been a week
Yeah.
after it opened. And I was like, oh gosh, I mean, okay. And so we walked to the corner store and got a copy, and it was uh, at the center fold of the Hollywood Reporter, it said, Nightmare on Elm Street made $4 million, which today, gosh, I mean, that would have been like a really bad opening probably for a movie. But back then, that was
But back
considered
then it's a lot.
a
Yeah.
really good, maybe it was like 2 weeks of, I think it might have been 2 or 3 weeks. It wasn't just the one week. And I thought to myself, and had all these great reviews, And I thought, wow, that's really great, you know? And I think in my heart, I thought some really great things were going to happen. Like somebody would call me and say, loved you in that. And I want you to come in and read for this great part. And that just did not happen. I don't know what I did wrong, but um, yeah, it was very hard for me to parlay the success of the movie into kind of like a bump up into my career. And so after that, um, I went back to college and
Yeah.
just decided, well, I better get my English major after all, and so I did go back to college and work on it. And um, yeah, it was a very interesting period. And even, I was with a really great agent and I had lots of really great auditions at that time. And I always felt like I was just like almost getting things, just never able to land the parts. And it was very demoralizing. And even some people who I was, leaning on to be mentors or people to help me in the industry, they would just say, sorry, Heather, I'm just really not into horror movies. I'm sorry I didn't see that. Or, I don't think I'm
Yeah.
going to see that. I don't like horror movies. And that was like a constant refrain for, I'd say, about 20 years after the movie came out. I would often find, people who I would ask for advice, or I would say, I'm here in my career, like, what can I do? And they'd be like, I just really haven't seen Nightmare on Elm Street. And I'm like, what?
Did you say it made
Really?
4 million?
Like, you're kidding me. And yeah, that was just like I would get so disgusted with people. But then I don't blame them because I don't want to go force people to go see a horror movie that they don't want to see.
Yeah, so like I have this weird theory, and I could also be totally wrong on this, but like when Nightmare came out, like because like I said before, horror, there's some horror stuff, but it wasn't like a big thing like it is now.
Right.
And it's funny how the tables have turned because now everyone loves horror, right? But I think like back then it was like teen comedies or coming to age. So I think you were competing with
That
that.
was everywhere. Yes, that was the genre of the day, were teen movies, comedies, coming of age, yeah, trials of teenagers, friendships, rites of passage, all of those kinds of stories.
Yeah. So I mean, in a way, you gotta be like, okay, it kind of sucks because I didn't get all that other stuff, but like, Nightmare is such like a legend. Sorry. Nightmare is such a legacy film that like, now you could go to Comic Cons and stuff and like people will probably come up to you and say, "Hey, this film like it really did change my life." And like that's just got to be like the greatest feeling in the world too, where I think that
It's a
kind of
great feeling.
beats yeah, that kind of
It
beats
is.
the yeah.
Well, the fan base now has just taken over, and they're the biggest fan base in the world except for K-pop, and Taylor Swift. But,
Uh,
you know, just like the whole evolution of being a fan, I think I've really watched that develop maybe 25, 30 years ago. There weren't that many opportunities to meet fans 30 years ago, but there were a few. And mainly there were a lot of kind of younger men, kind of, up to the age of say 25 or so. And I would see a lot of guys like that coming to these conventions. And then it slowly started to change. Like slowly there were more girls, slowly there were like grandparents, slowly there were babies. Like now, entire families come, to talk about horror movies with other people who love horror. So fandom in and of itself has changed
yeah.
so much. And now it's actually like a really legitimate pursuit to be a fan. Whereas in the beginning, I remember people was like the guys would go, I'm just a fanboy, and I'm not, I know I'm weird, but I'm a total fanboy. And it was kind of a slightly derogatory, not derogatory, but like it was just, not they were insulting themselves, but they were just saying like they weren't that, you know, uh, it's actually hard for me to explain, but they would say the word fanboy and they would almost be apologizing for it.
Yeah.
And then that's totally changed now. Now, like I find in the fandom world, trying to one up each other, like who can be the better, more devoted, most like cosplaying, line spewing, like know the whole movie by heart, like know all the trivia, know everything that happened the set. Behind the scenes, everything about Robert Englund. They pride themselves on being the biggest fan of this movie, and I love it. It's just very sweet, and it also, I feel, gives people something to do that gives them a lot of enjoyment. And it's more than a hobby, though. It's definitely a way of life.
Oh, for sure. And I think like, when people meet celebrities, like they over fan because they think, "Oh my God, I'm meeting a celebrity. This is only going to happen maybe once or twice in my lifetime." You know what I mean? So it gets that anxiety like, "Oh my God, you're my hero," stuff like that. Where do you know what I'm saying? Like
Oh yeah.
it's a very special moment, and I think the celebrity is all they kind of know that. They're like, "Hey, I like every celebrity I've ever met, I'll say 99% of them, because Heather, I'm a celebrity myself. They've all been very nice to me. You know what I mean? So like it's kind of like that where I don't feel you hear these horror stories that they're mean, but I don't think that's true.
Well, I've been in, several movies that has no fans, and so I can tell you as a fact that knowing that you did something that's going to live on beyond you and lives on outside of you is such a gratifying feeling when you've done a lot of work as well that hasn't attracted that kind of fan base. And so it's it's you realize it's like a really rare thing to do
Yeah.
something and do it at a time when people, it's just the right time for people to love it. And maybe Nightmare on Elm Street could have come out 10 years earlier and nobody would have watched it. You never know why something is popular at the time that it becomes popular. And I think most fans, they really enjoy those meetings with the celebrities because they want something more than the experience that they've already had with the film. So they've already had this really awesome experience being scared or feeling afraid or worrying about Nancy or being inspired by Nancy, whatever their feelings were when they watched the movie. When they have a chance to meet Robert Englund or they have a chance to meet me, it gives them a chance to kind of like really intensify that feeling that they had watching the movie, and they can describe it to us. They can tell us how important it was to them to feel those feelings, and it definitely validates for them the fact that they've put in so much time and effort, like being a fan of this movie. Having a
Yeah.
chance at last to meet Robert Englund and get his autograph. That kind of is the final, like, it's the cherry on top of this really wonderful, ice cream sundae that they've built their whole lives on.
Speaking of autographs, have you ever like fangirled out to someone? Like,
Yes, I
yeah.
have.
How was that?
When I was working on Just the 10 of Us, which is a series, a TV series I did for ABC. Um, John Hurt, the actor that was, he's one of my favorite actors. Um,
John Hurt?
um, William Hurt, sorry.
Oh,
William Hurt.
William Hurt.
Yeah,
I
William
know
Hurt.
William Hurt. All right.
I'm saying
Like
John. I'm thinking of, yeah, William Hurt was working on a stage next door. And so Joanne Willette and we both loved William Hurt. And I said, let's write him a fan letter and let's see if he'll come over to our set and make a visit, because we weren't really allowed to leave. And we could have left, but we were really busy that day, I guess. And so we wrote this really long fan letter about how much we loved him. And then lo and behold, he sent us back a note saying, I'm so, so nice to meet you. Uh, and I'm glad to hear, you loved my movies. And I just want to let you know that I can't leave the set today. I'm too busy, but um, you know, I think he just said, congratulations on your show. And I hope, continue to do well in this industry. Something kind of basic, but it was in his handwriting and it was on this little sheet of paper. And so Joanne Willette and I immediately were like, well, who gets to keep the note?
Oh my God.
And
You guys paper, rock, scissor it?
no, we didn't do that. What we did is we drew this line, totally cutting it in perfect halves around each word, and then we cut it, and she kept half and I kept half, and so it's kind of like our moment in fandom. But I have a lot of there's a lot of actors that of course if I saw them I would just I'm totally starstruck. Ask my husband. He'll be working with somebody and if I go with him to work and have a chance to meet, Eddie Murphy or I don't know, there's all sorts of actors. Steve Carell, like I always just get so tongue-tied and nervous and blush and I sweat and I know exactly how it feels to be, a fan.
So like let's talk about your husband for a second because he does special effects and makeup and you kind
Yeah.
of helped him on that on Dawn of the Dead, which I think is one of the best
Oh,
horror
wow.
zombie movies
Thank
of all
you.
time, you know?
Well, I have taken he is the designer and he creates all of the makeup effects. Um, I am really like the person who kind of keeps our business running, and I do a
Right.
lot of I do the stuff that's kind of not very much fun, but I really like working in this environment with all of these artists, and it's such a huge undertaking to get all of this stuff finished on schedule to the set, and I realized, because I haven't worked, constantly throughout my whole career, it was a really good job for me to step into. And today we're working on a Ryan Murphy show, Monster,
Whoa.
Monster season 4, and we're doing a couple of Ryan Murphy shows right now. So we're very busy, and there's always something to do. And I do enjoy it, but not as much as acting.
Yeah, yeah. Acting for if you're an actor, that's the best. Where like
Yeah.
comedy, if you're a comedian, that's the best. You know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, you know what your heart really wants to do, and you gotta always keep that in mind, even when you are taking other jobs, because we have to live, we have to eat, but always keep, don't give up on that feeling of, what you really love to do. I think it's important for everybody to always keep those hopes alive if, in whatever way you can exercise that little flame in your heart. You just have to try to do that.
Yeah. I had one more question about Dawn of the Dead about the zombie making process because that I feel that movie kind of has started like just the style of how zombies are fast and
Hmm.
bloody and stuff. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that. You know what I mean?
Well, there was 28 Days Later and Dawn of the Dead. They both came out in the same year and or maybe just a little bit of apart. And I remember Zack Snyder when my husband met with him on the very, very first day. Zach's like, these zombies have to be fast, and they have to be real. Like they can't be like, looking um they need to look dead and they need to look fast. And so with those couple of words, what my husband does is he goes basically, and to the drawing table and draws a lot of ideas. And we did some makeup tests here at our studio on some some extras came over, and we just started these concepts of creating these zombies and showing them to the director. And they were like, yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for. So we actually went to Canada and hired like their best makeup effects artists up there
Oh, cool.
and they actually took over an old mall that was just about to be demolished. It was called the Thornhill Mall, and it was a few miles north of downtown Toronto. So every day we'd go out to this old mall. It was like one of those 60s malls that was just totally falling apart. And they gave the makeup effects team this old drugstore for us to set up our shop in. And literally, a drugstore, it's just like a big empty room. So we had to build shelves and tables, and everything had to be built from scratch to create a makeup effects lab up there. We had to find, oh gosh, we had to find an oven. We had to find all the things that we needed, all this power tools. We went to Canadian Tire like every single day buying things. And if you've ever been to Canadian Tire, it's like a Home Depot kind of store. And so we put together a makeup effects shop up there, and it was awesome. I mean, it was. everyone was there at the mall. They shot at the mall. The construction department was right next to us. They were building the sets. It was a very great feeling of camaraderie. Lots of, you just knew everybody, and uh, it was like one of the most fun movies that we've ever worked on. And actually, our space was so big that we had room to put up a badminton court because a couple of
Whoa.
our employees were really good at badminton, and they said, let's play badminton at lunch. And so we put up a big badminton net, and the guys, well, and one of my assistants, her dad had been a badminton champion like in the Olympics for Canada. So she was really, really good. And so we would have these like just to the death badminton, games at lunch. It was really fun, super fun.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so great to hear. Yeah, my friend was like one of the leads in that film,
Oh,
and
oh,
he
who
was
is
like
it?
Jake Weber,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he was like
Fantastic.
the hero of that whole movie, and I was always surprised how like that movie didn't really make him a megastar because he was so great in it, you know?
I know it's another situation where these horror movies back then, and same with Sarah Polley. I mean, oh my gosh, she was so good in that
Yeah,
movie. And I mean, they already had really good careers, but it just doesn't seem to like launch you much higher than you already are. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't know. It was just really hard to emerge out of a horror movie as a really big star. I, these days, it's much more possible than it was back then.
Uh, well, Heather, I have three more questions for you. These are kind of fast
Okay, let's
questions.
do it.
So, Heather, if you were the brand of an ice cream flavor, like you made up your own ice cream flavor, like Ben and Jerry's or whatever, what would you call yourself, and what would be in your ice cream?
Oh, okay. See, I have two favorite ice creams. How about cherry mint magic?
Oh, Cherry Mint Magic. All right.
Yeah, that's my name because I love cherry ice cream. I love mint. I've never tasted them together, but hmm,
It might
yeah,
taste like cherry mint.
cherry mint. Yeah, cherry mint
Oh,
magic.
that'd be great. And then like that kind of goes with the whole nightmare, because it'd be red
Red
or
and
whatever.
green.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
You thought of that. That's amazing.
I didn't
Oh,
think of it. You thought of it.
no, with the red and green theme, it's so perfect. Maybe call it Freddy's Cherry Mint Magic. Something like
Ah, that'd be good. And then I wanted to ask you, what is your biggest fears that you had as an actress, and do you still have those fears today as an actress? Like memorizing lines or working with somebody you don't
Well,
really
now
want to
that I'm,
work with.
yeah, it's good that you mentioned that because now that I'm, getting to be a woman of a certain age, I
Yeah,
haven't really experienced it, but I do worry about my memory, being able to do long pieces of, a monologue. Though when I did that Midnight Club with Mike Flanagan, he gave me several very long monologues, and I found that it was no problem. It was, but I think I'm afraid of it. But I know after doing that show, I know I can do it.
yeah,
However, when I see like a whole page of dialogue, I have a little, my heart kind of skips a beat or two. I think also, I've never, ever, ever wanted to be naked on screen. And so I'm totally afraid of that. But I don't think that's going
yeah.
to be a problem now. As, I think I kind of got past that age. Um, and I think on-screen kissing is really hard.
Oh my God, yes. Oh,
And
so
I
hard.
think I'm not happy with Johnny Depp and my kiss in Nightmare on Elm Street at all. I wish it would had been a better one. That's all I can say
Yeah.
about
I auditioned for this film. I don't want to say the name because like this is a huge celebrity, but I made like the final. They have this thing called chemistry test. So like I had to kiss
that.
her to see if we have chemistry.
I don't like it, even hearing about it.
Yeah, and I didn't get the part, and in my head, I'm always thinking, "Oh my god, maybe I'm a terrible kisser." You know what I mean?
Isn't
I
it?
don't
Oh, I
know.
know, but don't you feel so scared? I just get makes me.
Gross. Like it's like, yeah, it's kind of
I don't know. It's an interesting part of being an actor that I've never really been able to conquer the sense that there's something wrong about it. Like not wrong, but just I don't know. I think that is why actors who have to kiss on screen do fall in love so that it feels more honest and rather
right.
than like this other thing. So that's, you know, it's kind of a way that your psyche must deal with having to be that intimate with another person that you don't really know very well.
Yeah, and I think like that's they got to figure out a way how to change that. You know what I mean? Like have an intimacy coordinator or something like that. To walk
Well,
you
yeah,
through
that's what they do
sets.
now is they do have an intimacy coordinator who tries to make everything so like robotic in a way that it takes a lot of the unknown unknown quantities out of it. But I've been, having worked for, Ryan Murphy Productions for a really long time is I really admire how free and how open so many actors and actresses are about their bodies and sex on screen and I have always kind of envied that they have that, but I just wasn't born with that. And I do
Yeah.
think a lot of people who like, Emma Stone, I feel like I've been such a big fan of hers always, but even more recently because of just her freedom about her personal, just her personal body and everything. I feel is very inspiring, but I haven't gotten there. I wish I could.
Yeah. Well, Heather, my last question for you, because I want to respect your time, is if you could go into a time machine and talk to a younger version of yourself, knowing everything you know now, what would you tell yourself and what advice would you give yourself?
That is so hard. I have two answers. One
Well,
is go to law school.
uh,
And
that's a good one.
the second one is, um, fight harder. Just fight harder for everything that you want. Just fight.
Yeah. But they're both good answers. So,
Yeah, it depends on what day you get. Some days I just want to throw it all away, and then other days I'm like, I just want to fight harder. And even going into my life, from now on, I feel like that's my motto. It's like just like fight harder.
uh,
And um it's a lesson that a lot of people just need to learn. You don't have anything to lose. Just go for it.
yeah. That's actually a cool saying for a tattoo. If someone wants to get tattooed, they just
Yeah,
fight
go.
harder.
Fight harder.
Uh, well, Heather, do you have social media where the folks can follow you, like
Yeah,
Instagram,
I'd love for
Twitter?
you to follow me at Langenkamp H on Instagram. And that's the only social media that I really do like to participate in. So I don't do Twitter, I don't do TikTok. So I only have so many hours of the day and I can barely read my Instagram. So that's where you could find me. And then I'm online. You can go to my website if, a lot of people can't go to conventions, but I sell autographed pictures and all of that at iamnancy.info. And you can go there. And I usually put up news that's happening to me or where I'm going to be. You can buy a picture or a DVD. So, yeah.
Wow. Awesome. Well, Heather, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me today.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully I wasn't the worst interviewer in
No,
the world.
no, Reza, it's been amazing. Thank you so
Uh,
much.
all right. Well, Heather, thank you
Enjoy.
so much.
Thank
It was
you.
an honor to meet you. And let's get together one day and get a chicken. You know what I mean?
Let's do it. I'd
All
love
right.
it.
All right, guys.
You take
Uh,
care.
bye, Heather. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
All right. All right. That was the interview, guys. Subscribe, rate, review. We'll see you guys next week on Reza Rifts.